There's a huge misconception that boundaries have to be hard to set, or that they are a big disconnector between you and the person you are talking to or the group. And this couldn't be further from the truth. Boundaries are simply a way to communicate something we are feeling in the moment. It is literally just saying something that we do or don't like. And often people struggle with the don't like side of boundaries. It's simply saying, I'm experiencing a dynamic that you haven't caught on to yet. Because obviously, if the other person catches on, they go, oh, sorry, I can see you're distressed or whatever it may be. And then they know not to do it in future. But often we have to think more carefully about boundaries. I say boundaries because, again, it sounds like such a harsh and big word. But we have to think about it because the other person has just missed that we didn't feel good. Maybe we have such a poker face. Maybe we're so used to going with the flow, trying to let everyone know around us consciously and subconsciously that we're fine, you don't have to worry about us. So they can't actually read our reactions. And so boundaries are really good to come in just to say, hey, what happened just there? That didn't feel too good in my body. And it doesn't have to be a me versus you scenario either. Sometimes it could just be, I don't know, someone gives you a gift and they mean well, they absolutely love it, but you receive it and actually it's offended you slightly or it doesn't quite feel good. And by sharing what you feel, maybe in that scenario, I'm really, really grateful that you got me a gift. I absolutely love the thought that went into this, and I love that you were so happy giving it to me too. I really feel that. Just what you got me is making me feel a bit uncomfortable. And the thing with boundaries is that they don't have to cut off the dynamic that you already have. You don't have to go into an angry mode or a fierce mode. You don't have to push them away. There is a way to that actually boundaries do a lot better when they are held in a very gentle, loving, and open space for yourself and for the other person. Before I get into it, I just want to have a moment to share my huge announcement, which is I am releasing my brand new course. It is called Ravishingly Relentless. It is so juicy. I've just finished recording it and I cannot wait to share it with you guys. It ties in exactly with what we are talking about now. That feeling of knowing your worth and using that as a way to create and shape your experience. We're essentially saying, you can't mess with me. You don't get to infiltrate me. You don't get to trigger any overgiving responses. You don't get to guilt trip me. It's standing up for yourself, but in a very feminine, in a very gentle way. And when I say feminine, I mean in a feminine energy way. It's not about how you look, for example. It's your embodiment. It's about standing in your emotions and being firm, knowing what you do and don't like, what comes up in your body, and just sharing, hey, this doesn't work for me. That's what boundaries are about. And that fits right into the relentless embodiment that we're talking about, because you've got to stand your ground. You've got to have that courage. And so we're going to talk about that throughout the whole course, and I will drop the link in the description box if that sounds like something you are interested in. So yesterday I was chatting to a friend. I was meant to meet him for lunch, and I messaged him the day before saying I was in the area because I didn't live around there, and if he's around then I'd love to see him. He said yes, I'll probably be able to find time at lunch. We kind of left it quite open. We didn't organize a time, and it went through the whole day and I hadn't heard from him. And so when he messaged in the evening and he was really apologetic that the day had basically got away from him and something last minute had came in, my old tendency crept up. My old tendency to be like, no, it's fine. Knowing in my head also that I'd sprung it on him last minute. He's usually quite busy. I know that about him. And so he may not have shown up anyway. But I realized something funky started happening in my body. It started to feel awkward to message back something like, oh no, don't worry about it. It felt fake. It felt disingenuous. It felt like there was still something on the table that I hadn't said. And before, I would have just said, "What? Oh no, don't worry about it." Anyway, because I would have thought, "Oh well, he doesn't owe me anything," and I knew up front XYZ, that he might not message. And I realized, no, I'm not going to do that, because I feel this split happening in my body where my mind's going, say it's all fine, but my body is going, there's something that you're not addressing, that you're trying to push down, and you're not accepting. You're not accepting that you don't like something about this interaction. And at that moment, I went, okay, doesn't matter what I've done previously. It doesn't matter how I've interacted with this friend before. I am starting with a fresh slate. And so I went back to him and said, I did spring it on you last minute. So I was intentional in saying, I didn't want to say, oh no, it's okay, or anything to soften the blow. I just acknowledged, I know that I sprung it on you last minute. And in that way, what I really was trying to communicate was, I'm not blaming you. I'm taking responsibility for part of it too. It wasn't a huge commitment that we'd made. And then I followed it up with, and I'm also upset that you didn't message sooner, because that was more why I was upset. It would have been lovely to have had lunch with him, but it wasn't a huge disruption in my day that he didn't message or that we didn't have lunch. It was just more the fact that there was a point where I was like, oh, should I just leave the area, because I had to go back home. And I just had to go, you know what, I haven't heard from him by the late morning, and I was ready to go at that point. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna leave. That's what feels good to me, and we can talk it out later if he messages again. So by messaging saying, and I'm really upset that you didn't message me earlier, I'm purely saying a boundary is just stating, communicating an emotion that has come up in my body. And that's all I'm doing. I don't want to say, you need to do this, or next time I'd appreciate it if you did this. You just want to hand over, this is how I'm feeling. And you're then going to become really curious about what happens next. So no judgments. And you just want to be really curious about their reaction. So this is a lot of the times where people get things wrong. They will state a boundary and they will expect other people to react in a certain way. Other people don't owe you anything. They don't owe you abiding by your boundary. They don't owe you an apology. There should be no expectation around how they treat you next. That's why meeting it with curiosity is the best way to keep an open heart and mind, and to still keep that conversation flowing. Because even if they do come up defensive straight away, if you hold that space lovingly, there's a good chance you'll be able to work through it as they realize, oh, hang on, we're having a conversation about feelings. The depth of the conversation has gone down to a safer space. So other people don't owe you anything because they have free will. If you're expecting people to treat you a certain way, you are actually overcrossing one of their boundaries. So all you want to do is just state how you feel and observe how they react. And based on how they react, that is, again, your information to hold. You're not expected to treat them in any certain way. You just look at their reaction and go, that's actually not the reaction of someone I want to build a further friendship with. Or maybe it is, and you manage to work things through, and now, like in my case, they know that you don't like a lack of communication when you're trying to make plans, for example. So it all can be a lot more seamless than a lot of people make it seem, and we definitely don't have to have that bitchy, horrible, me versus you standoffish energy. I hope this helped, and check out the Ravishingly Relentless program below if that is calling to you, and I will see you next time. Thank you, my loves.